Good morning, Bitcoiners. This is Daniel from the Bitcoin Citadel. How are you guys doing today? The topic of today's rant is the 7 deadly sins. I saw a video fairly recently. I can't remember who made it. I think it was a Bitcoiner, because that's most of the videos that I watch. And the person made a video, this guy, about the 7 deadly sins and how he thought the 7 deadly sins were bullshit. That all sin should be related to the taking of things, kind of the unauthorized taking of things, stealing shit, right? Including taking a life, right? Taking people's possessions, and he was like, all these things, like a betrayal is really, taking a trust and not honoring it, all these things, right? It was all related to really thievery of some sort, right? And his critique of the 7 deadly sins was there's no real property or there's no real real world consequences to any of those sins. They're not real, they're not crimes. And that got me to thinking, of course, right? So what that got me to thinking about was, what are the 7 deadly sins? These are old Christian, part of the old Christian morality. It probably goes back farther than that, though. And the sins, if I can remember them, are pride, envy, greed, or avarice, if you want to call it that, sloth, gluttony, right? Envy, avarice, sloth, gluttony, wrath, right? Sloth, gluttony, wrath, and sloth, gluttony, wrath. What was the last one? There's 7 of them, and I'm only listing off 6 right now. But let's start from the top, and maybe it'll come to me by the time I get there. Sloth, gluttony, okay. It's being wrath, sloth, gluttony, wrath, and there was one more. That was one I was thinking of this morning before I looked it up, and I can't remember it now. So, what are these sins? These sins that are the deadly sins, right? You're not really hurting anybody by doing these sins. So why are these cautioned against? Why are these called sins, right? Sins are the things that you don't want to do. Those are the things that are going to imperil your immortal soul, right? And if you believe in the Christian eschatology, the Christian framework, right? The Christian religion, that's the kind of stuff, when you do it, that's going to get you a one-way ticket south to the hot place, right? And if you believe in that stuff, you don't want to go to hell eternally. And these are the things you got to avoid doing in order to, not punch that ticket. So if you want to have a chance at a ticket to the other place, right? The one that's an eternal, an eternal life in heaven, then you gotta avoid these 7 things, right? And I'm wondering to myself, why is that? Well, I'm not a Christian. I like the red parts of the Bible, not the black ones. I'm not a guy who thinks that Jesus was a historical figure, right? I'm just laying this out for you, right? I do like the Christian morality, though, because I think the Christian morality is an older morality that, has been around and was either rediscovered by Christian mystics and by people who deeply thought about, the world that we live in, or it just, it was grafted on to Christianity, like a lot of other things, right? So, why these 7 things? None of it has to do with, killing or lying, or, you know, in the Ten Commandments, it's all about taking God's name in vain and having other gods, you know, instead of the true God, right? And stealing and lying and coveting, you know, all that stuff. Those are the Ten Commandments, but the 7 deadly sins are different. And the way I think about it is that these 7 deadly sins, I think they predate Christianity. And you know me, I believe that we are immortal souls, but I don't think we, you know, the oversoul, the creator, would be anything that's first of all, the creation is ongoing, right? And second of all, the creator's not going to say, hey, you made a mistake, you're gone forever. That's not the creator that I think. It doesn't make sense that the creator would be like that, you know? So I believe we come back over and over again. I agree with the Buddhists and the Hindus with that. I think that makes much more sense, right? So we come back over and over again. We're immortal souls. And when you think about it, if we are immortal souls, if that's what the game that's being played here, then the 7 deadly sins make a lot more sense, because those are warning signs along the road for immortal souls to say, hey, don't get caught up in this shit. You're here, you know, to refine your soul. You're here to level up next time, right? And if you're doing these things, if you're the sin of pride, right, for an immortal soul who's having an experience in the material world, you're limiting yourself when you are prideful, when you think that this is all due to me. All of these things that I've gotten, that I've done, it's because of something that was special about me, right? Rather than being a co-creator with, you know, with the oversoul. So the sin of pride. Envy, you know, envy is a real easy one for people to fall prey to. And again, envy diminishes the immortal soul, right? If you realize you're an immortal, and we're in the Great Awakening now, that's where we are in the timeline, right? So envy, you know, envying somebody else's position in the world, or somebody else's looks, or somebody else's possessions, right, is just makes your immortal soul small, right? Lust. Lust is a big one now, you know? There's a lot of people who care more about sexuality than anything else. Just look at the news, look at movies, right? People are hypnotized by lust and by that carnality, right? Not just sexual lust, but people want something. They lust after it. Sexuality, I think, is the prime example. But again, it's a distraction. You know, when you are caught up in lust, you know, it can be exciting and energizing, but it's a big distraction for your immortal soul, and it's a big distraction for people to waking up to their immortality. Greed, avarice. This is a big one for Bitcoiners, right? We're so focused. We can get so focused on stacking and on Bitcoin and wanting more and more of it. And I think that this one is the one that's going to distract Bitcoiners from the Great Awakening. Not the Great Awakening to not the fiat apocalypse, right? But awakening to the fact that you are an immortal soul. You are the protagonist of your own story. And the story is not about Bitcoin, right? Avarice, greed, that's one of the ones that's really going to be that's tricky for Bitcoiners, right? That's probably the one that, you know, as Bitcoin becomes more valuable, if you are able to hold on to it, avarice is going to be I think one of the real challenges for Bitcoiners in the next 15 years. So pride, greed, avarice, gluttony, right? What is going to get you tied into this mortal coil, this material world, more than gluttony, right? Just the consumption of food, right? And gourmets and gourmands, right? When the food becomes the thing in and of itself. I love good food. I'm a foodie, right? I love my farm to table access I have here in the Northeast of the United States. But when it becomes an end in itself, again, this is a huge distraction for the immortal soul. It can be. I don't have to go into it too much more, right? So pride, envy, greed, gluttony, wrath. Wrath is a huge one for people right now. People are getting so wound up about everything. They're so angry. And in the second seal time, when peace is being removed from the world, that's an easy one to trigger, right? Wrath, and that is one that we as immortal souls, especially right now, have to watch out for. Everything is triggering right now. Everything is divisive, and it's easy to be distracted by that anger, right? That's a real ticket to the black pill. And all of these sins are tickets to the black pill, right? Which is the last thing an immortal soul wants. That's the last thing you want during this time of awakening, is to take the black pill and go to sleep, right? You don't want that. Pride, envy, greed, gluttony, wrath, sloth. Sloth is a big one too, because that's when I see so much of that now. People, and this is where I think I really like the circadian biology, the quantum biology of Jack Kruse. To me, the sloth is what breaks people's brains, sitting in the basement under LED lights with an LED screen in your face in a dark room, playing video games, doom scrolling, right? That's your interface with the world, right? And that's how you can become slothful, right? As opposed to, Alex Ramosi, entrepreneurs, people who work, people who, like me, get up every morning for the sunrise, right? These are all things you can use to fight the vice, the sin of sloth, right? You've got to get that. That's going to put you to sleep as much as any of the other 7. So now I got to find, what was the last one? Oh my goodness. You know what? I'm gonna pause and I'm gonna look it up and I'm back, boys and girls. I got all of them. Let's run them down. Pride, envy, greed, lust, sloth, wrath. I got them all. I just couldn't count. I don't know what it is. Count BTC. You got to teach me how to count, So those are the 7 deadly sins. And the reason that people have a problem with why those things, those didn't hurt anybody except for yourself, right? Except for your immortal soul, which is the whole point of the game. That's why those are the 7 big ones, right? And that's why the God of this world, right, Jehovah, has his 10 that have nothing to do with the immortal soul, right? They have to do with this experience that we're living in, right? They have to do with grave crimes in this experience, right? They do. But a crime and a sin are not the same thing. A sin is a stain on your immortal soul. A sin is a lost opportunity for you in this this rotation, right? This incarnation in the avatar that you're occupying now, right? It's a sin against your ability to make progress, right? To your soul is here in the refiner's fire, and these 7 activities, these 7 distractions are there to dampen the fire, right? To insulate you and isolate you from the fire. And that may feel good, but it's very counterproductive. Because believe it or not, well, we as Bitcoiners know time is the only thing other than Bitcoin that's absolutely scarce while you're here in this avatar, in the simulation now, right? And these 7 deadly sins are the distractions, right? The things that are going to get you wound up to not take advantage of the time that you have here, right? In the refiner's fire as the protagonist of your own story, to develop your immortal soul, and at this time to wake up and take the chance to exit this simulation. The big boss of this, the big boss is coming up, right? We're on the boss level now. The big boss is on the horizon. And it's time for you to level up and to realize, now, and this is the time for awakening. So everything is lining up. It was super hard to awaken. It's super hard to awaken when it's not the awakening time. But in the awakening time, everything is pointing to the awakening. And if you look at the events of the world right now, people are really worried about all-out war breaking out. Right now, it's all kinds of signs, all kinds of signals. But those signs and signals are for peace being removed from the world in riots, in fires, in assassinations, right? That's the wake-up call. That's the target practice in the hall right now, right? Don't get distracted. Don't get distracted. Take it as a wake-up call, and you'll do great, Stack Bitcoin. Just don't let Bitcoin, don't be greedy. Don't let that be the center of your world. Use it as a tool. All of these 7 deadly sins, none of the things in the 7 deadly sins are sins in and of themselves. Like envy. You look at other people and where they are and what they have, and you want that stuff for you, and it poisons you. But comparing yourself to other people, as long as it's not pathological, is fine. That's how you see the things that you want, right? That's how you can, that's how you can discern and decide, right? It only becomes envy when it becomes pathological. Same with pride. It's good to be able to judge your own work and your part in the success of something, right? That's not a bad thing. It's when it becomes pathological, when it crosses the line into hubris, and you start to think of yourself like the God of this world, or like the oversoul, that you did it all by yourself. It was all due to you, right? That's when you really get distracted. That's when it gets pathological. So that's what I want to talk about today, the 7 deadly sins. Review them and how they impact your life. And if you feel like you're in a pathological state in any of these areas, that's what you want to work on right now, because that's distracting you from waking up. And that's really limiting your growth as an immortal here at the end of times, in the Great Awakening, when this opportunity is presenting itself to everybody. Deep one today. It was really, really nice. I was walking out here this morning, and I was like, it's 10 minutes too late. Anyway, like, share, subscribe. I like only having a few people watch my videos, so don't feel like you have to. But because I don't want to have too many people watching them yet. Maybe in a year that'll be fine. But right now, just a few people watching is good for me. I will talk to you next time. Maybe I'll be out here tomorrow. We'll see. Peace.